Welcome your host, Caddy Frank, as she leads discussions about substance use disorder and the journey to recovery. You're listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Here we are at Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. My name is Caddy Frank, and I have a couple of very anxious guests ready to talk about their story here on our show. So who is our person in front of me? What is your name, my friend?
My name is Cat Callan.
Cat Callan. And what do you do at Minnesota Recovery Connection?
I'm actually a certified peer recovery specialist.
Oh, superstar. And who do we have over here?
My name is Adam Birkenstock.
Nice. And what do you do at Minnesota Recovery Connection?
I am a recovery navigator through Recovery Corps. So I work for Recovery Corps, but office at MRC.
Nice. So we have a couple of humans that are coming in from our office, Minnesota Recovery Connection. And what I like to do is I like to bring people in and let you tell your stories, because there's a lot of people out there that are listening, some of which are familiar with recovery, some of which are in recovery. And then there's a lot of people that just want to go, what is this recovery stuff? So we like to start off the show with asking, Kat, what is right with you today?
What's right with me today is that I have another day in recovery. And as a woman in long-term recovery, that's another win in my book.
I would say that's an amazing win.
Yeah. Also, I'm just very thankful that I get to go home to the first house that I've been able to rent, and I have a wonderful partner and pets, and I just couldn't be luckier.
That sounds like a lot going right with you. So why don't you ask him what's right with him?
Well, Adam, what's right with you today?
Yeah. Well, today is kind of the culmination of just an awesome week, actually. Just I've had a lot of good conversations with the people I'm working with today. I've been very busy today, which feels good. So I feel productive and achieved today, you could say. And much like Kat, I'm just grateful that at the end of the day, I'm going home to a place where I'm safe and comfortable and around people I love who are healthy and happy to have me around and all of that.
Yeah. Now, I mean, that's a huge piece of this recovery journey, isn't it, folks? I think what you said, Adam, is really, really amazing. And that is, people like to have me around.
Yeah.
And I get to be around people that I love. And there's that relationship is back. Now ask me.
Caddy, what is right with you today?
There you go. See, first time around, everybody's like, what am I supposed to do? We're supposed to have a conversation about recovery. That's what we're doing here. What's right with me today? So what's right with me is that I have an incredible group of people that I work with, two of which are sitting in front of me. I myself also have a place that I get to call home. Recently in the Twin Cities, we've had a lot of disruption with our unhoused population, and it has literally given me some real grace to say, I am so lucky. Sometimes things aren't always perfect, but boy, I've got a place to call home. And I've just been sort of sitting in that space right now and just really being grateful that I have a place to lay my head, have my cats, have a meal, and the work that we do does support the greater community. So just grateful in a lot of different ways. So I'm going to turn to Adam. And before we're going to talk a little bit about what's your favorite thing that you get to do at Minnesota Recovery Connection as a navigator? What's the thing that comes to mind right out of the gate?
Good question. Put me on the spot a little bit, but that's okay.
Yep, that's what I do.
Okay.
That's okay.
It really is. It's hard to put into words, but I think that initial connection with somebody and kind of collectively feeling that sense of relief that someone has when they start working with you, particularly if they haven't worked with someone in peer recovery before. And you can kind of feel the energy of how it's new to them, but refreshing to them. And you're able to help that person feel safe and comfortable and unjudged,
Mhm.
which is just something people who we work with have had before, but a lot of people haven't.
Right.
And so just to kind of feel that energy change when you
Mhm.
first start working with someone, and it might not happen right away, but it usually does happen relatively early in the relationship. Um, and it never gets old.
No.
It's
No.
it's different every time,
Mhm.
and how people react to having you involved in their recovery is it's an experience I didn't really expect. But
Nice.
yeah, like I said, it doesn't get old, and it's just makes you want to keep pursuing that with people.
Yeah. Well, I think what comes to my mind is that it's like you get to hear somebody kind of like take a
Yeah.
I'm okay. I don't have to be anything. I don't have to be anyone specific. And so you get to hear them just sort of like drop their shoulders a little bit because we run
Precisely.
around
Mhm.
tense all the time like I'm going to be judged. I'm going to judge myself.
Yep.
So what a beautiful beautiful experience that gets to be on a regular basis for you.
Yeah, I'm glad it made sense.
Yeah, no, it made
So.
perfect sense to me. Kat, what's you've been doing? You took the class and then you started working with us part time.
Mhm.
What's the best moment or a moment that you have experienced now doing the work as a certified peer recovery specialist? What comes to mind?
Kind of similar to what Adam was saying and what you said with that sigh of relief. Hearing the tone in a person's voice change when you really start to build a relationship.
Mhm.
Something that I really like to do, and it feels very rewarding for me in my job, is working with the justice involved population.
Yep.
I really love connecting with them and being somebody for them to talk to when a lot of the time they don't really have that space where they can talk about recovery. So I'd say that those moments have been the most priceless for me, I guess.
Gratifying and
Yeah.
priceless. Yeah. Yeah. Having trained individuals in the Department of Corrections, when they get to have a different kind of conversation with us.
Mhm.
We were just, Alicia and I were just at St. Cloud doing a lesson with the 20 gentlemen that took our class at the Department of Corrections. And you see, like what I said to you, Adam, which is you kind of get to see them relax a little bit because
Mhm.
it's not the norm.
Yeah.
And then you get to see them like begin to open up, but it takes a while, particularly with the justice involved folks. It
Right.
takes a little while for them to say, you trustworthy? Can I
Mhm.
actually talk to you? And I think that's the greatest gift. Yesterday, I was talking to someone and they had a lot on their mind and had a lot of concerns. And when I got to just say, it's okay. We can just talk about this. We can like look at some resources. This individual just kind of did that deep breath. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, that's the magic of our work because we understand what it's like to be heightened, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You're kind of anxious. You're like, is somebody going to tell me what to do? What the heck? Is somebody going to judge me or am I in a safe place?
Right.
Mhm.
And I think what I'm hearing from you is that, and that's why you work with us,
Yeah.
you're safe people,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
I'd like to think so, yeah.
Yeah. See, I've heard both of you at work, and I know you're both great because I
Mhm.
get to hear Adam on a regular basis, and I don't hear your conversation through the wall, but I hear that you're talking with someone. And what I can tell you both is that you care so much about the people that we serve. And we have the ability in just having a conversation. Sometimes it's the conversation that can change the whole idea around someone.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Just give them a space
Right.
and be heard.
It's really important.
Yeah, being heard. When we come back from our break, I'm going to ask these two fine individuals to give us a little synopsis of their recovery, their substance use disorder, where they've landed now. What does it look like? Um, what we want to do is we want to help people who are those who have been in substance use and those who have got people who are in substance use and people who don't know a darn tootin' thing about us. what does it look like? And what does it look like in recovery? So thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. We'll be back in a flash. Well, here we are back with Adam and Kat talking about what is recovery and maybe what happens when we are in our addiction, and then how did we get into our recovery. It's always a journey. It's always something that we sometimes sort of scratch our heads after the fact and go, man, was that me? I know I do that a lot. I'm like, I was somebody that had a couple of DWIs and went to jail and went to the workhouse and did all that. And here I am, some darn tootin' director at Minnesota Recovery Connection. How the heck did that happen? I mean, so I want you, when you're thinking about this, it's like, what drew you into the life of substance use disorder, and how did you navigate where you are today, which is an amazing space. So Adam, Birkenstock, like the shoe, is going to go first. And I might pop in with a question here or there, might slow you down
Please
and ask
do.
you a question. So tell us what the beginning of this process or this life of yours.
Sure. Well, I did get involved in substance use pretty early in life. I would say I was, an early teenager when I first started dabbling, and
what did you dabble in?
Primarily alcohol.
Okay.
Which very much became my primary substance, and the one that led me into recovery, among other experimental things. But really, not to get too philosophical about it, but I think, growing up, I was always kind of a fish out of water kid. Certainly had good friends, but definitely didn't fit into many places.
Oh, I hear you, friend.
And as you get older, that just becomes, I'm only speaking for myself, even if I sound like I'm generalizing, but as you get older, it doesn't necessarily get easier. You almost feel continually different from other people. I think it differs by area, but where I grew up and where I went to school, the other people who were kind of outsiders and thought a little bit differently and had different interests that weren't so
typical.
Exactly.
Typical mainstream. I like that mainstream.
Right. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not at all.
But people who were a little outside the box and thinking and interests and all of that, and also frankly just people who were cast aside. I mean, people I'll say, I was pretty badly bullied for a lot of years, so people who went through stuff like that, you all kind of find each other in one way or another.
It's like that. It's either like the geek crowd or the burnout crowd or the preppy crowd. We all find our peeps.
And for sure, and honestly, those terms are unfortunately kind of accurate. Sometimes
they are.
The stereotypes are there, and they do exist. So does everything in between. But so you kind of find each other, and for a whole bunch of reasons I'm sure we could talk about all day, substances are generally pretty popular amongst those groups of peers when you're young, particularly once you start getting into high school. And for me, I just grew up not really grasping the concept of confidence or comfort with myself, and again, I had good friends, but in general didn't really feel like I was enjoyed by other people, and discovered alcohol, and it really was the answer to just about everything. And it wasn't a dabble and then go back to normal life and then dabble again and have some fun once in a while. It was tried it once and
all in.
I mean, it was just, it's when people talk about having that genetic trigger, I really do consider myself someone who has that, because it was just so distinct. It was like the entire chemistry of my being just changed.
I was binge drinker from the word go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just sign me up. I'm there.
and the exactly. And I guess part of that, the truth is it worked for a very long time. I felt like I was making more connections with people. I felt like I was able to talk to people that I normally wouldn't have been. I felt proud of myself, and obviously my day-to-day experiences felt enhanced. I almost felt like I had a superiority complex
Wow.
around everybody else, because I secretly just felt like I had the answer that nobody else had, and
The elixir of life.
yeah, I had figured it out. If I had figured it out, and so that's how it was, and for better or worse, it stayed the
How many
answer
years
for-
did you kind of roll in that kind of time frame?
So probably if we're talking
Years of drinking.
yeah, I mean before I really started getting into sobriety, probably 12.
12?
Probably
Okay.
12
Good
straight
chunk.
years.
Good chunk of
Yeah.
years when you're feeling on top of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And then feeling like at night sometimes or in the next morning,
yeah,
right?
right,
Oh yeah.
exactly. So yeah, for over a decade.
Okay. Okay.
For sure. And yeah, it just it kept working, and then as I got into adulthood, it kept working some more, though I was starting to experience some of the downsides. I got my my first and thankfully only DUI at 19. Moved out when I was 19 as well. I actually lived on my own at a pretty early age, which was a good experience for my personal development in a lot of ways, but it also just allowed me to totally perpetuate
Oh yeah.
that
Living alone,
system.
nobody's there to say don't.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right. So that definitely that was kind of the turning point of really just nothing holding me back from doing that. And what feels crazy now in hindsight, but at the time was just normal, is I went to college, I worked a lot, had good jobs, held good jobs, and just stayed functional, and didn't even recognize how much organized chaos it was.
Oh my gosh. I had no idea your exact story, Adam, but we are like two peas in a pod, just a few years apart from one another.
Right.
Absolutely. Maintained like all get out, but it was still madness that was actually going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Definitely.
Sorry.
Oh, no, not at all.
Just crazy when I hear people's stories. I'm like, geez, I'm not alone at all.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah. It's, I guess that's kind of how it went. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I still had what I think were all kinds of fulfilling experiences. And it's not like I was doing nothing with myself, but there was this constant, presence of alcohol in my life, and it just became a standard for
how do you live your life.
Exactly, just everyday function. And so it was this weird combination of constantly using it to be comfortable, but at the same time, that's around the age when your peers start to kind of get into socially acceptable adult partying, if you will. So that just allowed it to go on for longer, because it's we're 20, 21, 22. We're starting to go to the bars and concerts and all those things, and it's normal. And so now some of that behavior that seemed a little off to people when I was 16, 17, 18, now it's okay.
Doing what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. So that kicked it into another gear, just perpetuated. And then to kind of get into the recovery aspect of it. I mean, eventually there was just no hiding the fallout from other people. I won't get into the nitty gritty, but enough things happen.
So consequences to your drinking.
Yeah.
So the DWI was something earlier on, right? And then you still were full force into it.
Yeah.
But then the fallout or people or situations got ugly. Is that what I'm picking up on?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Harming relationships and physical health deteriorating.
There you go.
And what else can I say?
That sums it up pretty well. So you were having consequences from the addiction to alcohol, and they can show up in a bazillion different ways.
Exactly.
So you sort of began to see that. What turned the tide? What was that thing that went, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah. the thing is, there were probably so many of those flags that I could have taken as the "I can't do this anymore" flag, and I recognized them too, and I went, "Yeah, I got to do something about that, but I'm going to drink some more first,
Yeah,
and then I'll figure out how to do something about it."
totally.
So that would go on, and really, just so I'm an only child, and my parents are very involved in my life, and I like it that way. Um, and it's not that they turned a blind eye, but I think that they kind of knew about it, but they didn't know how bad it was. And eventually there was no hiding it from them either. And they're my rock. It's just the three of us really. So once they started getting involved, it pretty much shut the kind of romanticized side of it down pretty quickly.
Okay.
Because it's like, okay, now
They called you out on it, essentially?
Yeah. Called
Okay.
me out, had some conversations. It stopped being, I go to family gatherings and I could walk around with a drink and would be offered drinks, and then that stopped happening. You'd go to family gatherings and no one would offer you alcohol. And,
Okay.
so
They didn't want to see that at them anymore.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that would happen. That's a sign. And then I think honestly, my significant other, who I've lived with for many years now, and a couple of my close friends, I think, to be honest, looking back, I think they were kind of communicating with my family a little bit too, because it was now starting to eat into all those other aspects. It wasn't something to hide from my family and then still go out and do with my buddies. It was like everyone is concerned.
Right.
Now.
Oh man, Adam, we're like two peas in
Yeah,
a pod
I
right
know.
now.
And I remember some of your stories
Yeah.
too. So,
Whew,
but-
jeez.
so that was it.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where not really an intervention, but just one of many conversations happened, and I was basically asked to step away from life for a little bit and try to actually get into treatment.
Okay.
Because it had gotten
Too bad.
to that point, and my physical health was really deteriorating, and I was becoming incapable of a lot of the productivity that I was capable of for so long. It was just it reached a point where it was just kind of burning everything up.
Right.
So I did go to inpatient treatment. It was an incredible experience. I feel like I matured 5 years just from my 30 days there.
Wow.
And that's kind of something that I'm still grappling with. It's kind of shocking how many aspects of your personality, and again, just speaking for me, but don't develop past a certain age when you're that heavy in use from that early on.
It just stunts your growth.
Yeah.
Potentially.
And I've always considered myself a mature person, but
got about a minute, and then I want to
cool.
turn the mic over to Kat. So tell us a little bit about that treatment and how long do you have in your recovery journey at this point?
So this coming March will be my 2 years.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So to wrap up, I mean, that went forward. Unfortunately, that wasn't a one and done.
Okay.
I had quite a few slips past that, couple more different types of treatments, and started enlisting other assets like therapy and
nice.
And just kind of trying to surround myself with that mental health aid that I have been lacking for so many years.
Okay, so the mental health was also part of the journey for you to put into play.
Very much so, and it hadn't gone addressed. And once I started working on that, that was kind of the path to no going back. It's okay. I'm on the self-improvement path now, and there's nothing for me if I go back. So
wow. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll continue on this. I want to give Kat an opportunity to talk a little bit about her story. So that's really, gosh golly jeepers, we got so much in common. It's just amazing. So Kat, tell us a little bit about how did you landed here in recovery, but what brought you to this space?
Well, I've always lived with mental health issues.
Okay.
From a young age. I always was an innocent, very innocent child. I never wanted to grow up, and that mixed with my experience with my mental health, it didn't fly with my peers. So I really had, I had some issues with making friends and
Okay.
keeping friends, and I think that really shook me. And that kind of led to eventually breaking down a little bit and wanting to be with other people that had similar experiences but weren't receiving treatment for that or not receiving education about what they were experiencing.
Hmm.
So it led me to begin experimenting.
So it sounds there's a real common theme between you and Adam here. We're sort of
Yeah.
feeling on the outside and
Hmm.
then wanting to tap into maybe a friend group, and that was using chemicals together. Is that what I'm sort of picking up on? Or kind of finding a new group that was one of the things?
Yeah. And so I have anxiety, and
Okay.
I also have OCD, which is an extremely taxing thing to go through, especially as a child.
Yeah.
I just remember one day. I remember the day it just happened. It's the first experience I had with OCD, and it's a hard one to navigate. So, um, just trying to socialize and fit in, especially the area that I grew up in, it was very mean girls. It's just hard for a kid.
Yeah. No, particularly if you've got some things going on that nobody else really understands. So you're odd human out, right?
Yeah, and eventually I just kind of snapped because I thought I can't be along with peers how I want to be if I don't move away from wanting to be innocent and stay a child.
Mm,
So I went the complete opposite direction and started just basically doing whatever I could to rebel.
okay.
Yeah, and I was actually sent away to, they called them programs at the end of ninth grade
Mm.
in Montana.
Oh, like one of those get better camps or whatever, kind of
Yeah.
recovery camps that you see on Netflix stories about.
Yeah, it was smaller than that one,
Mhm.
but they really were not well trained.
That seems to be a common theme.
Yeah, and it was 9 months, so I was
Ooh.
there for a whole school year. And I wouldn't say I regret it. I held a grudge against my parents for that for a little bit, but it was actually really nice experience
Hmm.
like overall, I'd say. I
Overall,
met some
okay.
good people,
Okay.
but of course, there was no recovery help there. I went
No.
to an AA meeting. I didn't drink then. I mean, I wasn't really sent for substance use disorder then. It
Mhm.
was for rebelling.
Okay.
So I got back and I immediately, dabbled,
Okay.
and it just, exponentially grew and grew.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What was your dabbling substances, just to help educate the people listening?
Well, I did everything until I reached my drug of use, which is heroin.
Okay.
And I had a great group of friends when I was 18. I felt wanted for
Mm.
one of the first times in my life, just like I could really be myself. But a couple of friends in the group were struggling with opioids. So
Okay.
I tried it because I wanted to try everything. It made me feel good. And I didn't like it actually the first time I did it. I thought, what's the big
What's
buzz
the big
about
deal?
this? Yeah. But of course, it was around. So I kept using it. And so we'll fast forward to I was getting pretty. I didn't know actually that you could physically withdraw from that drug.
Hmm.
So I was shocked when I started to feel very ill.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're just sort of living in this innocent place where you just do it and do it, and then when you don't have it around, then the withdrawal begins to happen, and you're like, "What the heck?" Is
Mhm.
that kind of it?
Yeah, and I found out that I really did have an issue with
Mm.
wanting things and not being able to stop, especially with something that intense. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
very addicting
Very addictive.
drug.
Yeah, it's an
So,
opiate. Yeah.
yeah. But I got arrested
Okay.
when I was 20, and I was on probation for about 2 years. and that stopped the heroin use, but I was drinking the whole time. I was not ready to stop or accept that I really had an issue.
Oh, that acceptance thing. That's a beast.
Yeah. I thought, well, it's just the heroin.
Mhm.
I can
That's
drink,
just the
you
problem.
know.
Yeah.
But I just fell in deeper and deeper into depression. I did get off of the probation
Okay.
successfully, and I did get my record expunged. I don't know how I did that, but I did. So I'm thankful for that. But then I had reuse, also known as a relapse, and then it just was worse than it ever had been before.
Mm.
I knew what I was getting into, and I really started to lose myself.
Yeah.
It was about a 3-year run that time,
Okay.
and I was using with my partner at the time, and we were just both very toxic for each other. And the moment I'd say that I really started to lose myself was when I'm a big animal person.
Okay.
That's always been a healing point for me in my life. And I started to I hate to share this, but I started to kind of neglect the responsibilities as a pet parent. And that's the only thing I cried about when I went to treatment. I mean, like, I feel very I have my regrets and things with how I treated my parents. I love my parents so much. I can relate to you, Adam, when you said that your parents are your rock, and that was kind of a turning point for me too, because I knew that, I mean, they were done at the end there, and I decided to go to treatment because that was the last effort they were willing to put in.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, fast forward, I did go to treatment at Plymouth, Hazelden.
Okay.
I lasted a day and a half.
Hey, you did the short plan is what you were kind of working on, right?
Yep. And then it was a couple more months, and that's when my parents gave me that final chance.
Okay.
Center City, Hazelden, that was amazing. I have fond memories of it. It was so helpful, and I would recommend that place to anyone that has the capability of going there. Um, I did experience a couple reuses after that. Within like a 2-month period, I was back out and using.
Yep.
And then I don't know what happened, but one day I woke up and I said, I just
Can't do
can't do
this
this anymore.
Oh, such a common theme. It's like you have that reuse or you have that moment and you're just like, the clarity comes in, right?
Well, it was just crazy because, well, I knew that I couldn't go back to treatment. I knew I would lose my parents,
Yep.
and I knew that it was just going to get worse and worse if I didn't stop. So I actually went to meetings.
Nice.
Yeah, that was my saving grace. And ever since May 17th of 2019, I have been in recovery. So I'm very
Wow.
thankful for everybody that stuck with me and believed in me. And I'm thankful for where I am at today with this job. I love my job. And I love the people around me, and my pets, they did make it through.
Yay!
I'm gonna
the
add that.
pets,
So
no, that's great. Yeah. They're very resilient, even on a bad period of time. Wow. So it feels like when you both of you had your recovery moment, you went to treatment, various places. I love the short stint and then the long stint. I hear that so often where it's like, I can't do this. But you picked up tips and tricks and tools along the way. And so ultimately that day that came, you're like, oh, I can pull a tip from this and a trick from that and a tool from that. And then you just realize I could go to these meetings and that'll help me, right? That's what you did, Kat.
Yep.
Yep. And Adam, you're like, I'm gonna get better because my body's gonna give out
Yeah,
and I
that's
can't
true.
do this anymore.
That was a big part of it.
Yeah. And did you do meetings as well at some point?
Yeah, definitely. The biggest thing that really did it for me was was an outpatient program,
Okay.
actually, and inpatient helped a lot too. But just that regular, almost constant for many months, connection with a relatively consistent group of
Yeah.
people.
That accountability
Yeah.
to someone or something. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So meetings in a different way.
Meetings in a different way. When we come back, I want you just to continue on your journey of finding your recovery. Now you're in recovery, good, solid recovery. And where are we now? So we'll catch you back here on the fly. Thank you.
This guitar needs 6 strings, 'cause without it there's no song. And this house needs
Love that music. I got smiles on faces in here. The anxiety has sort of dropped a little bit in the room. These lovely humans are telling us some stories about who they are and where they've come to. And what I want to compliment you both on is when we talk about our stories, and both of you had some anxiousness about doing this. When you talk about it, I see these beautiful faces kind of, even though they're anxious, relaxing a little bit. And when you talk about your stories, it's like, I want you to know the vulnerability that you both showed, particularly about the mental health issues that you both struggle with, myself included, as well as you talking, Kat, a little bit about how this disease of addiction, it affects our humanness, but a lot of people and things around us. And you talked about your animals that got kind of the short end of the stick for a little while. And both of you sound like you have really strong families that are behind you. And they're like, folks, what are you doing? You know? And so, Adam, give us a snapshot of living in recovery now, maybe rebuilding a little bit of the relationships, and what brought you to wanting to do peer recovery services?
Yeah. Where to start? I mean, the biggest thing for me getting into recovery, I mean, was especially initially was physical and mental. When you come out of that, it's kind of like someone turned the lights on for the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit.
Yeah.
After, or the sun's come out for the first time in a long time.
Mhm.
And you ride that for a little while. At least I did.
Pink cloud
cloud
area.
exactly.
Yeah,
I
you
don't know
betcha.
if to use
There,
that term
oh
or
yeah,
not.
you can use. There's
Yeah.
all kinds of terms that we
pink
have in our.
cloud.
Yeah, pink
Yeah,
cloud.
whatever you want to call it. So
Yep.
that, I experienced my first moments of inspiration for living life
Oh,
in that.
beautiful.
It goes away is
I know.
the thing.
Yeah.
And then, then I struggled mentally with for a while with purpose and direction and where the fuel that I had for my whole previous life leading up to this is now needs to be gone, and I want it to be gone. So where do I go from here?
Yeah.
What can I do to keep challenging myself but also fulfilling myself? And so, I fast forward a little bit. I actually was introduced to the concept of Minnesota Recovery Connection and Recovery Corps by extension, during sort of my end time in outpatient. And then I started volunteering as really something to do because I was, in between work naturally because of everything. Basically life had come to a screeching halt while I figured all this out.
Yeah.
Um,
Common.
yeah. And so, for something to do, but also I wanted to do it. And just, it really almost immediately found myself, surrounded by a group of people who appreciated me in sobriety. And I guess I didn't understand how that felt yet. I didn't know what it was like to, okay, now people like me without the alcohol.
They like you for you.
Yeah, that's new.
Ooh, weird.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
People actually appreciate me being around. People aren't suspicious of me, or I just didn't even know how to trust myself yet, and other people are putting trust and faith in me already. And so that kind of that spurs itself forward almost. And the Recovery Navigator program came up. a while after I had started volunteering, the that service years applications opened up, and I
Mhm.
applied, and had the support and recommendation of a couple people who had already been working at the MRC office for a while, which I'm eternally grateful for.
Mhm.
And got into it, got hired and got started, and that's where I am now.
Yeah, and
So,
here you are loving what you do because you
Yeah.
get to see that light come on in other people. And it might not be quite as bright as what you get to present now, but I think what's so interesting about what you said is that when you begin to see yourself in recovery, we don't recognize ourselves right away.
Yeah.
We're like, it's like this mysterious person, like,
Hmm.
I don't have to be that drug addict or that drunk anymore.
Yeah.
Who is that? Yeah, it takes a while to like sort of find out who you
It
are.
really does.
And I think when you got to be able to come to Minnesota Recovery Connection, you just found a little stability too.
Yeah.
Like you
Oh,
just
yeah.
needed that stability. And
Yeah.
that's, that's what you got when you went to Hazelton. You just got something that was regular right there.
Right.
So in a couple of minutes, tell us what you've been in recovery now for several years and you're at Minnesota Recovery Connection. Just what's the journey in the last couple of years been like?
Oh, well, I've done really well with goal setting and working towards that. I set a goal to finish my bachelor's degree in psychology and public health by age 30, and I did graduate. I believe it was 2 days after my 30th birthday.
Sweet.
Um, and I just wanted to fit something in here. I think about this a lot. I am
What's that?
so grateful that I can shower and not be in pain, because the pain, the physical, withdrawal, it's just those little things now that you can
Wow.
be thankful for.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
it's
That's
a
amazing.
yeah, it's a nice time for me in the day, and it used to be really hard to do it. So I just wanted for somebody listening out there, I wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I want to just pick up on that. And that is when we're in our recovery, early recovery, really early recovery, it sounds like that moment you're like, and now that you're in recovery, it's like people don't understand the pain of getting off of these substances.
yeah,
Adam, you acknowledged that your body was kind of breaking down. You couldn't take a comfortable shower. I know I was kind of itchy, scratchy all up in my mind and my body
Yeah.
because I'm going through this. And you might be able to take a shower, but kind of recognizing that now it's cool. It's comfortable.
right.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really amazing because that is helpful for people to understand that it isn't a switch that gets flicked. It takes a while.
It's definitely a challenge, and but you can do it.
Yeah.
I believe that. But as of right now, the reason that I'm at MRC now, or that I found MRC, is because I was doing my senior project and I was volunteering community engagement, and I have a passion for addiction studies, which
Right.
is what I'm going to be going for. Actually, this semester I'm starting my master's program.
I'm doing a happy dance for Cat right across from her. How exciting.
So I mean, you can do what you put your mind to. I really want people to hear that, because I didn't think that I would survive, and now I found the courage to do these things, and you can too.
Well, thrive is what I'd like to say. You can get through this, right? You too, and you can thrive and you can become amazing people who are helping other people. Both of you are instrumental at Minnesota Recovery Connection, and that's great, but it's what you can do for the rest of the community, the people that you know in your private lives and your communities, and the people that you can have a conversation with that can really change people. Love what you do at our organization, but this thriving in recovery and being these pillars to people that you don't think, you're just kind of being you. I see humans that are out there changing people's lives because it's just a conversation with someone that can just turn somebody around. Y'all just said that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the amazing thing. And it doesn't have to be through us. It can just be if you go, to any sort of public event, or you just talk to somebody, you see somebody in pain, you can have a conversation because of our lived experience and like, oh, I see what they're going through. Maybe I can just go say hi.
Yeah.
And that can just like change the day on someone.
Totally.
Yeah, just having those interactions. Well, I want to thank you, Kat, and I want to thank you, Adam, for being here. You made it through. You had some good information. You're sharing it with our recovery community and everybody else because it helps other people who don't understand why we get into these places in our brains and why it's so hard to come out the other side. But Kat can take a shower now and enjoy it. And Adam is out there just listening to people and caring about them. So say goodbye to the people.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
people.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, Recovery Revolution. We'll catch you next time. Be well. Thank you.